An 80% figure warranting 4 years of repairs is clearly overstating the problem and is not a serious situation of that. Any person who had the opportunity to build his or her own home will know that challenges of ensuring adequate quality from even reputable contractors is a challenge, a real challenge. One could therefore appreciate the performance criteria in a mass housing program. It would be instructive to learn if these same quality control issues are affecting the many ministers who have cornered keys to their recreational dens at the HDC-built Federal Villas in Federation Park. Or whether these same quality control issues are affecting the senior government minister who operates from an air-conditioned battery in South Trinidad. I want to know if those quality control are affecting those occupants. Now that the UNC is on board with some element of a national housing program and are bulldozing farmers left, right and center and are earmarking large chunks of agricultural land for housing, the population is now in a better position to judge the PNM on these issues. The same can be said about the mass housing to be constructed at Fairfield in Princestown. When the PNM initiated this project, our colleagues on the other side described it as unacceptable social engineering and the basis for PNM voter padding. Now that it is being funded by the Minister of Finance's allocation, all is forgotten. All is forgiven. You may proceed.
You support that?
It's my project. Mr. Speaker, I turn to Tobago.
What Valentine? Where you 5 years ago?
And where you spoke with great glee. Mr. Speaker, I wish to turn my attention to Tobago and the allocation by the UNC-led government to the Tobago House of Assembly to manage the affairs of Tobago in the next fiscal year. Mr. Speaker, as we are all aware, I'm a Tobagonian, and I must say, a proud Tobagonian. But before I'm accused of bias towards the land of my birth, as we say in Tobago, where my neighbor's shrimp is buried, my comments this evening, this afternoon I should say, are based on the needs for all citizens, whether they reside in Trinidad or in Tobago, as well as on the need to allocate financial resources in an equitable and transparent manner for the development of all of Trinidad and Tobago. In that context, Mr. Speaker, I wish to put on record that the allocation of $2.2 billion, contrary to what the Minister of Finance and his desk-thumping cheerleaders will want us to believe, was not done out of any generosity or benevolence of the so-called caring government. It was the minimum allowed under the Dispute Resolution Commission ruling of 4.03%. So as the total national allocation increases, so does Tobago's. Mr. Speaker, it was only a human thought I entertained that this part of the UNC's newly found love for Tobago, the share of the national budget would have increased. Indeed, in the light of the recommendation by the Attorney General in his Green Paper on his own Tobago Constitution, I thought that Tobago would have received at least 6% of the national budget. That's what he's recommending in the Green Paper. But just as the eyes of the Trinidad people have opened to the disrespect, the deception, and the subterfuge and betrayal of the People's Partnership Government, as they call themselves, Tobagonians too have seen through the fiscal sleight of hand and the attempt, of course, to deceive. But, Mr. Speaker, there is history to all of this. Let me refresh the Minister's memory. He will recall that formally, on June 30th, the Tobago House of Assembly dutifully and responsibly submitted its document to the central government on time and in accordance with the law. What was disheartening, and I want to repeat, disheartening if not shameful, was the fact that in the month of September, the Chief Secretary and Secretary for Finance met with the Minister of Finance and his team, which included my colleague, the MP for Tobago West, and Minister in the Ministry of Finance, and my other colleague, MP for Tobago East, Minister for Tobago Development, and that meeting was to discuss allocation to Tobago. To the surprise of the Tobago delegation, the Minister had not read the Tobago statement submitted almost 3 months earlier. I want to repeat that, Mr. Speaker. When the Tobago House of Assembly met with the Minister of Finance and his team, which included 2 Tobago MPs, the Minister of Finance had not read the Tobago statement submitted almost 3 months earlier as required by law, and was totally unaware of the comprehensive economic development plan for Tobago. And that plan was supposed to provide the underpinnings for Tobago's development since 2005. The sad part of all this is that while the THA representatives vigorously defended Tobago's interests, the 2 TOP members, parliamentarians, perhaps on instructions of their leader, sat in total silence, mystified and hypnotized in the presence of their UNC masters. Mr. Speaker, the theme of the THA's 2012 budget sent to the Minister, the one he didn't read, is protecting Tobago's heritage. The statement by the Secretary of Finance highlighted several sub-themes, and they are embracing higher education, marketing Tobago's tourism, monetizing Tobago's culture and the arts, resolving land issues, strengthening indigenous entrepreneurship, reform of arrangements for the Constitution. Among various proposals, the Assembly outlined in the document that it wished to discuss with central governments were the offer of loan guarantees by central government to special tourism sector entities, depending on their circumstances, the removal of the 10% hotel tax in Tobago, enhanced tax credit for renovations of the tourism plant and for new structures, the removal of VAT on certain purchases, the introduction of special incentives for property owners, the creation of a duty-free shopping. This is the Tobago shopping list that they wanted the Minister to think about as he goes forward. But, Mr. Speaker, as fate would have it, they weren't interested. Mr. Speaker, now that these proposals and others have been contemptuously ignored by central government, the Minister sought to impose various solutions on Tobago without consultation. The Tobago East Growth Poll announced in last year's budget comes to mind immediately, but there were others of recent vintage. And of course, the Tobago House of Assembly will deal with that at the appropriate time. The fact is that the central government has sought to sideline Tobago and punish the people of Tobago for their continued support for PNM administration in Tobago. We simply have to look at what they have done with key aspects of the development program. Consider the following allocation, Mr. Speaker. In a $54 billion budget, $54 billion budget, Tobago's needs for the Scarborough Library, which includes furnishing, is $80 million. They got 5 allocated. For the Shore Park Cultural Complex completion, 130 million needed, they got 5 million. Cove Eco-Industrial Estate and Business Park, they require $40 million to operationalize it, they got 3. For housing in Tobago, they requested $50 million of a $500 million program, they got 5. For the tourism rolling plan, Tobago's economic backbone and foundation, a request of $250 million, they got 60. For the Windward Road Special Development Program that's underway, they asked for $40 million, they got 3. Road resurfacing, well, they did a bit better there. They asked for 75 million, they got 60. And of course, for the malls and the Plymouth and Signal Hill and so on, the mini malls and